My running watch works on an app on my phone called Garmin Connect. The app provides all the health statistics that my watch records, all in one easy-to-see window on my phone. One glance tells me how I should feel, even when my brain may be screaming, "Stop this insanity now." As you can see, my watch is telling me that I'm being productive. My VO2 max is fair. I'll have to work on that. My training load is optimal. I guess that's good. My heart rate and blood pressure are pretty good for my age. I even got a pretty good night's sleep last night. So my watch estimates that I currently have plenty of energy left to take on the day. It's cold and windy out there today, but my watch says I'm fit to run. If I hadn't spent so much money on this watch, I might listen to my brain today, but I did. For those of you old enough to remember Jim McKay advertising the wide world of sports on TV, my goal to run in a game preserve in South Africa looks like it might mirror Jim's tagline, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. We'll emphasize the agony today.
It was 6 degrees last night and there's about 5 inches of snow on the ground. It's difficult to log miles when it's slippery or it's so cold that you can't breathe. I try to keep up a schedule of running 3 times a week, but if it's cold and snowy like today, I find that challenging. On really cold and snowy days like today, I have to resort to something special in order to get out there and get in a few extra miles. So I started running with ice cleats and a face mask. I tried running with the lightweight ice cleats that are made for running shoes, but they just aren't durable enough. Twice now I've broken them while I'm out on a trail and had to limp home. So I've decided to go with something a little bit heavier duty. And recently I've been running with stabilizers. Stabilizers are made for boots. They're metal cleats on the bottom. They've got Velcro straps, and they just don't fall off. They're heavy, and I can't run real far in them, but when I want to get a few extra miles in, I rationalize that the extra weight is just good for strength training. If I have to deal with really cold wind, it just ruins your throat. So I've resorted to a balaclava, and this one happens to be made by Nike, and it really works out pretty well. You just slide it over your head. You can keep it down if you want to. If the wind is really blowing and you're having trouble breathing, you can run this up, and it works like a charm. If it gets too warm, which it sometimes can if the wind slows down, you can pull this off entirely like this, or slide it down here and use it as a neck scarf. So it's pretty versatile. I use this quite a bit. If it's just too miserable outside, or I'm feeling kind of wimpy, I'll resort to the treadmill. I'm not really fond of treadmills. I think they're boring for the most part. I'd much rather run outside. But if it comes down to running out in the really miserable cold weather or running on the treadmill, I'll take the treadmill. I simply pull out my phone, tune in a podcast or some music, put in my earbuds, and make the most of it. I know some people just can't run without listening to something like music. I sometimes, particularly on the treadmill, will listen to a podcast or an audiobook even. But I really prefer not to use any listening devices when I'm running. Of course, I run in the mountains where The scenery is always interesting, and you never know when you're going to run into some wildlife. I've run into bobcats and deer, and last year I ran into a mother bear and her cub. That was pretty scary. And a few years ago, I actually ran into a moose. He was coming around one edge of a big bush while I was going around the other, and we almost ran right into each other. But I can understand if you run in town or where it's not really very exciting to run, you do need to take something to take your mind off it, just like me running on a treadmill. But boy, I'm looking forward to some warmer weather so I can get outside more. This treadmill stuff is just no fun at all.